Welcome back to another Gwenpool story, where we bring you the story that you've all been waiting for. Gwenpool finally meets Deadpool. What's gonna happen? Well, I guess you'll have to stick around to find out, because you're here at the Complete Story Series, the most epic way to recap your favorite comic books to keep up to date. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Gwenpool is actually a character who started as a variant cover, and everyone loved the outfit so much that she got a comic book in the Howard the Duck comic book, which eventually turned into her own comic book. She's just a regular human from the real world who's read all of the Marvel comic books and therefore knows everything that there is to know about comic books and the characters in these comic books. That's her power, comic book knowledge. The individuals that she is with have been introduced as characters in her book, but that's the only place that they all exist. No one has any crazy powers, except for Batroc the Leaper. He is known for Captain America. He's a character that you probably have seen in other locations. If you're wondering about the storyline before this, we do have Gwenpool in her own playlist, and I will link that down below. Other than that, let's go ahead and start off when we last left off. Now, when we last left off, Gwen had finally met with MODOK's contact, who had been funding them, and learned that he was actually a Doombot. After he and the evil alien squids tried to kill her and failed, Gwen managed to stop them at the cost of her mobile hideout. Now, with no source of income, the MODOK team decided that it would be best to go their separate ways, leaving Gwen all alone. It was just another night for Gwen when she suddenly realizes that she's in a cell. And not like an NYPD cell, but an actual castle cell. As Gwen gets up looking through the barred window, she says that this is different. Surely there's a reason why she's here, right? All she has to do is think. Thinking back, she remembers going to Ronnie's for some work, and then seeing Megatoni and him completely ignoring her. She shouts out that this isn't helping, and that she just needs to get out of here. And that's when there's a clink at the door. Gwen grabs a stick and kicks down the door, shouting, "No evil captor will kill me!" And as she wildly swings her stick, asking, "Who's there?" a voice from under the door asks, "Gwen?" Gwen shouts back that, "No, she's Gwen!" And then Megatoni pushes the door off, stating, "No, it's me. Anyway, I'm leaving. So good luck with whatever it is you're doing." Gwen runs up, telling Tony to wait! Her totally unfair knowledge of the comic book realm should help them get out of whatever this place is. Except that this is more of a sword and sorcery dungeon, so... She then nudges Tony, stating that at least she's got herself a cleric, right? Right? Yeah? Tony says no, he's a scientist, and not even at the moment because he doesn't have his equipment. As the two talk about it, they hear a croaking, and as they turn the corner, they find a giant room filled with frog people. Gwen whispers, stating, "I know this situation. No memories. Captured. No gear. This is level 1! All we have to do is figure out the puzzle. It is right over there with the hanging chain." She charges into the room, stating that she wished she had rolled a rogue, but since she's a fighter, she isn't sneaking by them. She cracks one of the frogmen and then jumps on the hanging chain, which conveniently drains the room and sucks the frog people away. As the last one is pulled down, he shouts, "Turn back! Escape before the unkillable beast finds you!" Gwen and Tony stare for a moment, trying to figure out what that meant. And then another voice calls out from the shadows to Gwen. Gwen shouts that it's another frog and it knows her name! But Batroc and Sarah walk out, and Batroc tells her, "Always with the slurs." The group begins to go over what they know, which isn't actually anything. But then another voice echoes from the halls, telling them to come this way for protection. The group heads in the direction where the voice came from, and Gwen says that it sounds like some kooky old-timers going to give them some cryptic exposition. As everyone walks into a seemingly convenient shop, Gwen tells everyone, "Look, it's a fantasy Costco!" The shopkeeper tells them that they're going to need some armor if they're going to take on the unkillable beasts, and my prices are very reasonable. Gwen spins around, cutting off the shopkeeper's head, shouting, "Look, they're slashing prices!" Batroc asks, "How did you?" And Gwen says, "It's because I know everything here. It's a game, and everyone knows the same rules that I do." Just then a black mist begins to rise out of the shopkeeper, and a fiery figure tells them that it looks like a level 1 decided that she knows the tricks and traps of the deadliest dungeon. It goes on telling her, "You must be wondering why you're all here. Well, it's because you're all mercenaries. You like violence and money? Well, now you're gonna have to go through a dungeon crawl, a raid if you wish." Gwen stares and tells the figure, "You're Arcade." The figure tries to hide himself. "No, I'm not." But eventually he rips his cloak off, telling her, "Fine, yes, I'm Arcade. Since you've ruined the shopkeeper scene, you must now go through the dungeon slaying enemies and solving puzzles if you want to have a chance at fighting me. Arcade laughs as he fades away, and Gwen starts going through the shopkeeper's inventory and giving everyone equipment, shouting that it's time for them to suit up. Once everyone is ready, the team pushes through, fighting the frog people from before, and finally they reach the end of the level, as depicted by the large wooden door with the word Beast painted on it. Tony pulls out his dagger, stating that he's done with this place, they should just hurry up and leave. And as he walks in, a severed hand is thrown out the door, and Tony stumbles back, stating, "I did a dumb thing." Out from the doorway, Deadpool walks out, reattaching his hand, stating, "First Goonie Frogs, and now Batroc the Leaper's little gang? How many baddies of medieval hosiery do I have to kill to get out of here?" Deadpool grabs Batroc by the throat and he jumps through a wall, shouting, "Oh! You just bashed a freshman through the floor! You unlocked the secret basement level!" As Deadpool slams Batroc into the ground again and continues talking, Gwen jumps down, cutting into him, shouting, "You talk so much! Your word balloons are probably covering all the art!" Deadpool stumbles back, and Tony shouts that that's the famously crazy and yes, unkillable Beast. "Use your comic book knowledge on him, Gwen!" Gwen says that there's only one problem with that. She didn't read Deadpool. He was just a little too LOL memes. Deadpool knocks Gwen into the water, telling her, "Okay, the Deadpool comments section is officially closed." Gwen gets back up, telling him, "This isn't how you're supposed to play the game." But just as she remembers it's a game, a digital game board appears with everyone on it. Gwen jumps back up into the fight, giving everyone individual commands, and the group manages to stop Deadpool where he stands. Everyone continues to keep Deadpool down, but after being set on fire, Deadpool tells them, "That's enough of this pretending that we're in medieval fantasy. It's time to use the guns that I snuck in." As he opens fire, he hits Gwen and she falls back as Tony tries to heal her. But just as the healing is finished, Deadpool charges after Tony, and Gwen trips him, shouting, "You always protect the healer!" Everyone surrounds Deadpool as Sarah then casts a paralyzing spell, and Gwen says that it's time to chop this boss up. Deadpool then asks, wait, what's going on here?" And Gwen tells him that he's just a guest star in her book, so she wins. Deadpool thinks about it and he says, "Ah, now I get it. We're in your book. You're a fellow fourth wall breaker. How fun!" He jumps up, grabbing and shattering the game board, and says that he'll show her how it's really done. She falls and says to herself, "Everything looks so different suddenly." And Tony asks how. Deadpool punches him, telling him, "Gwen there just gave it all away and made your widow brain realize the horrifying light of all reality before you." He then tosses his swords, hitting Batroc and Sarah, and shouts, "Our little encounter is governed by an outside force. And if that's the case, you're in big trouble." Deadpool punches Gwen and says that you may think that you're in a comic so you get the special protection. Because why? You're so popular? Well, I've never heard of you. I've been in hundreds of issues, countless series, comics, video games, TV shows, and so much merchandise. He pulls out his knife, going on, telling her, "You first appeared as a backup in a Howard the Duck special only because they weren't sure if anyone would even like you. You are the last person who can kill me." She coughs up, realizing what's going on. Oh God, he's right. But if he's so powerful, why is he trapped here by Arcade? Why play out the story? And Deadpool tells her, "Well, because we all live here, right?" No one says anything, and Deadpool tosses the knife, telling them, "Arcade is the real bad guy, huh? Man, I'm just beating up a teenager." Once they get outside, Deadpool says, "This looks like a beautiful hidden land of fantasy. Or maybe that hidden door over there will bring us right to Arcade." Batroc kicks in the glass and Gwen shouts, "Hello? Your game is broken, Arcade." Arcade trips over himself, realizing that everyone is here to stomp him. And he tells them, "Job well done. Y'all made it to the second level. Let me give you your..." But before he can finish, Gwen kicks him in the chin. A short while later, everyone leaves Arcade's abandoned warehouse and Deadpool looks out and says, "Oh, Staten Island? Just put me back in the dungeon." Tony shouts, "Hey, my parents live here." Deadpool tells him, "I'm sorry, but it's Staten Island." Tony sighs and says, "Thanks, but back in there I had a purpose. Out here, I'm just a fat guy." Gwen stops him, telling him that he's like Deadpool here. "We just got stuck in the plot, and I've got an idea." The next day, Tony presents his devices to Peter Parker over at Parker Industries, and Peter shouts that these are amazing. "These totally remind me from when I was a teenager and had to develop things on the fly because, well, never mind why." Out in the lobby, Gwen and the rest watch the news as they cover a story on Mayor DeBasio, who is standing with Vince, the Doombot from before, who is now seen as a superhero for saving everyone. Gwen says that that's strange. The mayor exists in her world too. And Sarah says, "That's interesting. Do you think that he believes that this world is fake like you?" Gwen thinks and says that if there are people who are copies of people from her universe. But before she can go any further, Tony runs up, hugging Gwen, telling her that he's got a job. A short while later, back over at Cecil's parents' home, They have not been liking the fact that Cecil is now a ghost, and he hides as everyone shouts that they need to hurry and exorcise him. He tells himself that all he wanted to do was say hi to his mom, but now their entire town has turned into Duck Dynasty meets Ghostbusters. Suddenly, there's several whacks and whams, and as Cecil looks out, he sees Gwen standing there next to the knocked out men asking, "How would you like to be living again, Cecil?" And that concludes the inevitable Gwenpool meets Deadpool crossover. It's so weird because I assumed that when Deadpool met Gwenpool they would know each other, but apparently they don't, which makes it even more fun and interesting. But you can't break the fourth wall like the king of the fourth wall. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to keep up to date as to what's happening on Marvel and DC and everything else that we're covering. And also, yet anytime, you can always follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Comicstorian. I'll see you guys next time right here.